Hi, thanks a lot for tuning in to another Journeys with Jack. I'm going to speak about Machu Picchu predominantly today, a little bit extra on Peru. And I went there in 2021 with a good friend of mine, Robert Glisson, and we flew in from Savannah, Georgia, through Atlanta into Lima, and then on to Cusco. So I'm going to mention a great tour company that we used, SA Expeditions. They were fabulous. They met us at the airport, shuffled us over to the other airport to get to Cusco, and picked us up in a van there with a nice lady named Allison, who was our guide for about a week. Now, we were coming from sea level Savannah, and we were going into the Inca Highlands, so about a 10,000 foot elevation change minimum. So you have to get acclimated to the area, and so Cusco is the great jumping off spot. And so you kind of start there and move around through the Sacred Valley where the Urubamba River flows. Now, a little bit of background. The Incas came originally from Lake Titicaca area in present-day Bolivia and conquered the indigenous inhabitants of the area around the Urubamba River, called the Sacred Valley, and the corresponding mountains that surrounded the valley. Now, the Incas had great knowledge about cultivation of potato, and those that they conquered were adept with corn. And so as they assimilated with the conquered group, they would grow corn at lower altitude, more sunny, warm areas, and the potato higher altitude, and they built terraces along these mountains. You see these pictures of these terraces not only in Machu Picchu. I'm sure you've seen pictures of these at some of the other sites throughout the Incan area. Now, the greatest leader of the Incas was Pacacutec, who lived in the 1400s and was the man credited with designing Cusco to look like a puma. He had a palace in Cusco, had a fortress in nearby Sacsayhuaman, and the amazing thing about these structures is that they're built of massive stones at both locations, particularly the fortress, and the stones are joined together very tight junctions. You can't pass a piece of paper between the joints, and there was no mortar whatsoever used. There was some type of interlocking mechanism on the inner section of the stones, kind of like glorified Legos, if you wish. But anyway, it's really astonishing. Not a lick of mortar used, and held together all these centuries. Now, there are multiple statues of Pacacutec in Cusco, in the main square, around a fountain, etc. So, anyway, subsequent to him, the Inca Empire continued on until it was conquered by the Spanish conquistador Francisco Pizarro and those that he led. So I want to mention a little bit about a couple of cool things in Cusco. Great tourist town, great souvenirs. I've got this really neat little journal there, and it's typical Inca handicraft with beautiful colors, and then a vision of the mountains in the area around Cusco. There are lots of great souvenirs along the different tourist areas, many handmade, hand-woven. So here's an example of a hand-woven set of gloves that I'd gotten for one of the ladies in my family, and I'm wearing actually a shirt that, a sweater rather, hand-woven from the town of Chicheros by Weavers Cooperative. This is alpaca wool, very soft, and the brown color was done by vegetable dye, same technique that had been used for centuries. So there's some interesting cultural things in the Inca area of Peru, one of which is that you'll see lots of upright posts with red balloons or red jugs on them outside of homes. That means that there was freshly brewed corn beer. Also, you can buy a fortifying leaf to chew, the coca leaf, from which cocaine is made. But when you buy the leaves on the various and sundry different roadside stalls and in the towns where they're sold. They are not illegal. In fact, it's very widespread chewing of the coca leaf to prevent fatigue, to help people with altitude sickness, um, help them with various and sundry aches and pains. So very common. Another characteristic of that area is syncretism, which is a blending of religions. So most of the people are ostensibly Roman Catholic. However, on the roof of most houses and businesses, etc., you will see a torito. That's a tiny bull made of ceramic. It's actually called Torritos de Pacuras. And this is kind of a charm, if you will, but it relates back to worship of certain of the Inca pantheon, and so it is thought to bring health and prosperity to the home. There's also the worship of Mother Earth by the Inca people, which may also concurrently be worshiping through the Roman Catholic faith. So those that worship Mother Earth, I actually watched a ceremony conducted by an Inca priest where a hole is dug and gifts are placed in the hole, including the aforementioned corned beer, vegetables, also some coins and some currency. So, curious scenario. Now, there's a blending of cultures between the Inca people and the missionaries from Catholic times. Here's a picture of the Lord's Supper on the ticket to the cathedral in Cusco, and if you look in the middle, there's a guinea pig. Now, a guinea pig is called cuy in this area, and it's thought to be a delicacy. I actually tried it. It was pretty good. I had it at the El Auberge restaurant in Ole Te Tambo, and if you want to try it, I'd recommend going to that place and eating it. It was tasty. It was fried. Now, final thing about the cultural aspects, here's a picture of a 10 sol note that the exchange rate when I was there was about 1 sol made a quarter, so that's about $2.50, that 10 sol note. So, going from Cusco, nearby town, Pisac has some of those terraced areas for agriculture that I mentioned, and that's kind of one of the first places they like to take you. Another place nearby is the fortress Saxe-Mundon, that woman that I mentioned earlier, and then the palace of Pachacutec. Now, as you continue on through the Sacred Valley, you follow along with the Urubamba River, and we stayed in that valley at an excellent hotel, a Belmont property, and I'm going to highly recommend Belmont hotels. They have great breakfast, great food all the way around, and good service. So from that location at the Belmont Hotel, we had the opportunity to go out to some of the nearby villages. I mentioned about going to the Cooperative of Weaving, and we went also to a village, Maris, M-A-R-A-S, and outside of this village, they do a brisk trade in collection of salt. So the area where they collect the salt, there's a bunch of salt pans called Salineras de Maris, and this has been going on since the Middle Ages. This city has become pretty wealthy. Now, in the highlands, a lot of times the Inca women will wear a top hat that is denoting the village that they come from. It might have a specific design or coloration, etc. The people in the Maris area wear a white top hat, i.e. white salt. Now, you can get salt that's white, you can get salt that's pink. It's very famous for the pink salt that comes from there. And due to the mineral content, you can also get some that is brown or reddish, etc. Fascinating.